Hello everyone, this is Crypto BitLaw, here with another blockchain legal brief, and today we're going to discuss how an illegal crypto exchange operating out of New Hampshire that operated with no regard for KYC or AML compliance was recently busted and all of their assets were seized. But before we dive in, please, if you enjoy this content, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And with that said, let's jump right on in. Alright, so as we can see here, Bitcoinist.com reports that illegal crypto exchange busted. The list of assets seized is incredible. They say, this story is wild. The list of seized assets is wilder. In the District of New Hampshire, the police arrested a few people that were exchanging cryptocurrencies with no regard for any regulation or AML or KYC procedures. Apparently, between May 25th, 2016 and March 15th, 2021, the defendants exchanged more than $10 million in cryptocurrency for customers throughout the United States. That's according to Darknetlive, which specifies, in March 2021, a grand jury returned a 20-count indictment charging Ian Freeman, Colleen Fordham, Renee Spinella, Andrew Spinella, Nobody, formerly Richard Paul, and Aria DiMezzo with an assortment of financial crimes related to the operation of a virtual currency exchange business in violation of federal anti-money laundering laws and regulations, including those requiring money transmitting businesses to meet registration and reporting requirements. Both Freeman and DiMezzo were charged with operating an unlicensed money transmitting business, plus counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and attempting to evade taxes. Apparently, they knowingly processed and profited from transactions conducted by fraudsters and scammers. That's just the appetizer of the story. The meat and potatoes is in how they did it, and the dessert is the wild, wild list of seized assets. So how did Freeman and DiMezzo operate? The indictment provides the necessary context for the seized assets story. Quote, the defendants Ian Freeman and Aria DiMezzo and others operated their unlawful virtual currency exchange business through two primary means. First, they advertised virtual currency for sale online through websites including localbitcoins.com. Second, they operated virtual currency automated teller machines or kiosks located in the District of New Hampshire. So far so good. The thing is, the defendants avoided detection by opening bank accounts in the names of religious entities, including the Shire Free Church, the Crypto Church of New Hampshire, wow, the Church of Invisible Hand, the Invisible Hand, really, and the Reformed Satanic Church. They misled banks about the nature of their businesses. In some cases, the defendants allegedly tricked banks into believing that their cryptocurrency exchange business was a religious organization receiving charitable contributions. Apparently, they instructed their clients to say that they were giving money to charity or trying to purchase rare coins, which leads us to this list of seized assets. You're not going to believe this. And let's see about the incredible list of seized assets. So far, it sounds like a medium-sized business. Freeman and DiMezzo used a medium-sized website like Local Bitcoins and operated a few ATMs. How much money could they be processing? According to Darknetlive, $10 million in total, right? Well, apparently, besides cold hard cash, gold bars, and platinum, gold, and silver coins, the seized assets that the government got were 6.12 seized Bitcoin from Ian Freeman, 315 dashed seized from Ian Freeman, one physical 1 BTC Cassascious Bitcoin seized from Ian Freeman's safe, one physical 100 BTC Cassascious Gold Bitcoin gold-plated bearer bar seized from Ian Freeman's safe, 0.9999 Bitcoin Cash from physical 1 Bitcoin Cassascious Bitcoin seized from Ian Freeman's safe, 0.999 Bitcoin from physical 1 Bitcoin Cassascious Bitcoin, 99 Bitcoin Cash from a physical 100 Bitcoin Cassascious Bitcoin, and 99 Bitcoin from 100 Bitcoin Cassascious Bitcoin seized from Ian Freeman's safe. According to this site, the Cassascious coins are the physical form of Bitcoin protected by a tamper-evident hologram and redeemable by the secret key hidden under the hologram. Apparently, there are 61,560 plus Cassascious physical Bitcoin addresses. Another key thing about them is that they can become seized assets. What can we learn from this case, though? Well, that Bitcoin is not a good tool for criminals. The indictment doesn't mention how they did catch Freeman and DiMezzo, but let's assume that it was by good old police work. Well, the blockchain contains an immutable registry of all their activities. Their clients should be shaking right now. All right, so reactions to this. I think first and foremost, the fact that these alleged criminals tried to use religious entities to launder and obfuscate and hide their activities is not totally surprising, because I'm sure that this isn't the first time that someone's actually tried to do something similar where you operate under the guise of a religious entity, whether it's to enjoy those sorts of tax benefits because religious entities are tax exempt for IRS purposes, a la the Church of Scientology or some similar organizations. But I think the other telling point is that this guy, Ian Freeman, was keeping his crypto in these Cassascious Bitcoin, which to me is pretty much, it's a big no-no and almost defeats one of the fundamental, purposes behind Bitcoin and private keys. It's the thing with private keys. I know a lot of us don't actually have our private keys memorized, but it's one of those things where you could memorize it. And if someone actually gets access to, let's say, a ledger or a Trezor wallet, they wouldn't actually have access to the keys at that point. They would have access to the device, and at least it's still protected by the PIN, right? And you only need the keys if you wanted to reload the device from a bare metal state. But I think it was bad OPSEC for this guy just to keep all of his Bitcoin with the keys exposed, just in a safe. And then I guess the other fact is that if you're doing any sort of nefarious or illegal activity on the blockchain, you should know, I mean, you're putting a target on your back. There are so many different blockchain analysis firms like Chainalysis where all they do is they search for, suspicious activity on the blockchain that would raise red flags, and they use the blockchain to trace and pretty much weed out how these illegal transactions take place and ultimately trace them back to the base level transactions that gave rise to this sort of illicit activity. So what do we learn from all this? Crypto isn't really the best way to engage any sort of illegal activity or criminal activity. Most illegal activity is funded in large part by good old-fashioned cash. As we could see, Benjamin Franklin right here, greenbacks, dollar bills, that funds the most illegal activity. If someone were to go buy drugs, if you paid with Bitcoin to a drug dealer and you exchanged Bitcoin, I mean, that would be a permanent record of that transaction forever in the blockchain. Contrast that with just giving them cash. There's no physical record on an immutable ledger that exists in perpetuity to link that transaction to that particular drug dealer. So, key takeaways. OPSEC is key. If you're going to try to use a religious entity in order to obfuscate or hide or mask or conceal your nefarious or illicit or illegal activities, you better step your game up and get to the level of something like, say, the Church of Scientology, and actually, have banging lawyers on your side and try to make it legit as possible. And OPSEC is king. You can't play around with your OPSEC. I remember, for those of you that are interested, there was this episode of this podcast. It's really good. It's called Darknet Diaries, and this guy, he does an interview with a drug dealer that operated on, it was one of those later incarnations of the Silk Road. I think it was called Alpha Bay. And you should listen to the level of the OPSEC that this guy went into. I mean, he was one of these people where he had an air-gapped computer that was just wiped, and I think it was booted up each time from like a bare state with a USB drive into Tails Linux, right, which is a privacy operating system. And he had a safe house that was rented out in someone's name. And then he had an internet connection that was rented out in someone else's name. And he used Tor, and he memorized his keys. And every time he accessed the coins or any funds, he would have to re-enter his seed words that he remembered based on mnemonic phrases that he used to help himself memorize the actual key, right? The 24-key C phrase, 24-word key phrase to his wallet. And so if you're going to actually engage in this type of activity, don't be lazy. I mean, that's not advice or anything like that, or an invitation for people to try to go out and break the law, but it's just a recognition of, I guess, just some of the laziness of these criminals, and I guess the lack of discipline, and just how many different holes they're leaving open to get busted. And so I don't know. I thought that this story was interesting, funny. In between using the Church of Bitcoin and the Satanic Temple and these Cassascious Bitcoins. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's really funny. Oh, and another thing. Don't operate an illegal crypto exchange without engaging in AML or KYC, because the government will find you. So, yeah, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this stranger than fiction story as much as I did. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.